important consideration when modeling objects with sharp edges is how they look like when they have subdivisions on them. So let's take this sphere, for example, and let's look at it in its regular state. So this is a sphere, it's holding its shape pretty well, and it's already pretty smooth because to hold the shape of a sphere, you need to have a certain number of subdivisions. So now if you click on the sphere and go up to mesh smooth, which basically subdivides this entire sphere and creates more subdivisions, you can see that not much has changed. This is it without any subdivisions, the way it was modeled earlier. It has some sharpness in these areas, and when you subdivide it completely, that sharpness disappears. So this sphere is modeled well with the subdivisions that it has. It holds its shape, and when smoothed out, it still holds the same shape pretty well. Nothing changes. And now let's look at this cube. If I apply a mesh smooth iteration to it and add subdivisions, the shape of that cube completely changes. It's now not a cube anymore, it is a completely different shape. You can kind of see how these objects look like with the subdivisions without actually applying them using 3 on your keyboard. So now if you have this sphere here, if you click on 3, you can see it smoothed out. The same thing for this cube, you click on 3 and you kind of see its smooth version without actually applying the subdivisions. If I click on this cube and click on 1, it's back to its regular form. Let's click on 1 on this as well. So in the regular mode, if you haven't applied any subdivisions yet, if you click on 2, you'll kind of be able to see this cube with what it looked like without subdivisions and then what it will look like with subdivisions. So this is obviously not what we want. When we're modeling objects with sharp edges, we want the cube to retain its shape in all forms. Now there are 2 ways to do this, and each of these ways has different applications. So the first way I'm going to show you is with supporting edges, and the second way is going to be with bevels. So supporting edges are generally used for animation where you're going to smooth out these objects at render time. So when you model them, they're going to be a certain number of subdivisions, and then when you actually render it out, when you make your final film, you're going to add more subdivisions to make everything look smooth and nice. For animation, when we're smoothing these objects out, we want to add some supporting edges so that when we do a mesh smooth at render time, we can actually see the actual shape that exists. To do that, let's hold on Shift and right click and click on Insert Edge Loop Tool. This tool lets us add edges to this object. So now where do we add these edges? Generally, we want to add supporting edges to the edges that we want to retain. So now let's add one edge at the top here. So I'm just going to go close to the top and add an edge here. And I'm going to click on 3. You see that the top holds its shape. It's now more flat, it's not curved. Let's click on 1 again. Let's add a few more supporting edges to the sides of this cube. I'm going to add one here, going to add one here, and let's see how that holds up. So you now see the entire top is having a flat surface. Let's apply one more at the bottom. So you see the cube now looks a little closer to its regular shape. This is its regular shape, and this is what it looks like when we added those supporting edges. So let's go back to 1. Let's add edges here as well. So there are edges all through the cube helping to support the shape. And now when you click on 3, let's go back to object mode and let's click on 3 and 1. 3, 1. So you see how in the mode 3 mode, it kind of smooths out those edges, yet it's still holding the shape. So this is one way to do it. And to make this even better, let's add a few more edges to support its shape, because you'll notice that when you click on 3, these edges move closer to the center. They move pretty far away from where they're actually at. And you want to avoid that, which will make more sense when you start applying textures to this. But you really want to avoid the shape morphing this much when you click on smooth. So I'm going to go to edge, click on this edge, control right click, edge ring utilities to edge ring and split, and click on these edges and kind of add more edges on each side. So click on G to just repeat the previous action. And now I have more edges on each side. And when I press 3, it looks a little better. And if you still see that stretching and you don't want this much stretching on your object, you can just add a few more subdivisions. So this is not necessary always. It really depends on how much in focus the object is, how much the textures are having issues due to this distortion. But depending on your object, you can add a few subdivisions. And now you see the object holds its shape really well. These edges don't move as much. So if I press 3, let's click on 2 to kind of really see how it goes. You can see that this is our original object and the second one is the object smoothed out. You see in the smooth version, it does not have sharp edges like it did in the regular version. To fix that, I can just click on these supporting edges and move them a little closer to our actual edge. The closer these supporting edges are to the actual edges, the sharper the actual edge is going to be because they're supporting it a little better. Let's move all of these. So now if I click on 3, it still gives us those sharp edges. You just have to play around and see what works for you. And this is what you would do for animation. Let's create a new cube for games. One thing that changes about this object is that you are not going to be smoothing it out at render time. The object that you see here is going to have to look exactly the same within the game. If you have a more complex object, you might not want these really sharp edges in your game. You might want to smooth it out a bit. You might want different kinds of edges because in real life, nothing looks like this. Nothing has these sharp edges. So when you want those types of edges in games, when you're not actually going to smooth your object, once you're done modeling your hard surface object, you're going to use something called bevel edge. And that creates something like this, where you have edges with a little more surface area, something that's not completely sharp, in a model which you won't be smoothing. Let's try it with these top edges. So I'm going to select these top edges, shift right click, and go to bevel edge. You see that immediately changes the shape of this object. You get this little dialog box along with the bevel edge. And I'm going to go to fraction, left mouse, click and drag until it kind of reduces that to become closer to the object. So I'm going to change it to a much lower number, maybe 0.04. You can do as much as you want for this. And now it's still kind of not giving me exactly what I want. So I'm going to go to segments, left click and drag, and then that creates segments along this edge, which allow it to retain that curved shape. So you can add as many segments as you deem necessary. I usually add just 1 or 2. I don't add more than that, maximum of 3. So you add these segments and now you have this nice rounded edge. Let's look at a situation where beveling is not the best. So I'm going to so I've beveled this edge, I'm going to select this and I'm going to click on bevel edge just like I did before and then reduce that fraction to 0.04 and add some segments. So I'm getting a nice corner here. I'm getting this corner that I got earlier. But you see that now we have this huge n-gon here. Let's go to vertex mode. So now we have this face on the top, which has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 vertices. We do not ever want that. We always want to have faces with either 4 or 3 sides. So when you have something like this, the solution that you have to do for this is add some more edges going across the shape that kind of joins these together to make sure that all the faces have four sides. So shift right click, let's actually go to edge mode, shift right click and insert edge loop tool and insert some edges that will connect using the multicut tool. So then go to vertex mode and click on, sometimes Maya does this where you're trying to use a tool but you're not able to. So to make that tool active again, just click on Q and just go to vertex and activate the tool again, and then you can join these vertices over here. You can always be more accurate with this by using the multicut tool first and joining these lines together. But basically doing this is going to get you those faces with four sides. We need another one over here. I'm going to hold down control when I'm on multicut to do this, and then I'm going to create. So now all of these faces that have been created by the bevel tool all have four sides, and now this can be used in the game. Something that's important to remember when you're modeling is that all edges in real life have some sort of surface area. So let's right click, go back to object mode. If you're trying to get closer to realism, you want to maintain that surface area. So you don't want an edge to ever look like this, which is, let's go to an edge which doesn't have any supporting edges. So this one, you don't ever want an edge to be completely sharp. You want it to look more like this or like this with some sort of surface area. So if you look at any object around you, a table, your Wacom tablet, any object that you have with sharp edges, the edges have surface area. No matter how little it is, it's always there. You can also go to, let's try out another bevel. So if I click on this, shift right click, I can bevel edge and add a really tiny bevel. So 0.02, really small. We can even reduce that further, 0.009. So a really small bevel at a segment. Even this, in an object that's close up, even this really small bevel will make a difference in how the object is perceived. It immediately looks more realistic. It does not look like a 3D model, and you're more immersed in the world. Whenever you're modeling, your goal is to immerse your viewer in the world that you're creating. This can be a completely hyper realistic world, it can be a stylized world, whichever type of world it is. You don't want them to look at something and immediately think that, oh, this is a 3D model. You want them to look at it and see your prop or your character or whatever you're making. And thinking about those edges, thinking about the surface area that each edge has, will really help to take your models to the level that you want them to be.